Hi, everyone. I'm Atul Vashistha, and I'm the Chairman CEO of Supply Wisdom, a real-time and continuous full-spectrum risk intelligence company. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the S in ESG, and in particular about human capital and why it's rising on board's agenda. So when you start looking at the power shift in today's market, one of the shifts that we're starting to see is the power shifting from the employer to the employee. And you're starting to see regulators, boards, and of course, leadership paying attention to this shift. We're starting to see regulators ask for greater disclosure requirements. We're seeing shareholders looking for that. And it's clear recognition that talent is key and why this needs to be on board's agenda. So when you start looking at human capital today, one of the other issues that you're starting to see is a clear recognition that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so this is becoming a critical part of ESG and a company's ESG strategy. So what are the risks that one can associate with this S in ESG, the human capital? One of the things that you'll start to see very quickly is that most companies don't have a very good handle on the DEI application within their companies across their company. So they might have policies in place, but how well is it actually being implemented? And are we seeing results of that? There's less transparency when companies start looking at their supply chain and try to assess whether human capital and these DEI and other standards that you're looking at, how well is your supply chain actually applying it? And you are at risk. You are at reputation risk if it's not being implemented properly. So how do you assess both your application of human capital and these DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that of your supply chain? Well, when you start looking at how companies have traditionally done it, they've used assessments. These are questionnaire-based that they did at a point in time, and often no more than once a year. Well, what happened during COVID? Did you know the status of your employees? Did you understand the status of what was happening in your supply chain? Well, you did not if you did assessments because they were stale. They were at a point in time that was done a long time ago. So there's becoming a clear recognition that these practices of assessments, the way we looking at human capital in the past are no longer applicable today. That one needs a real-time, continuous picture of what's happening in your environment and, of course, in your supply chain. And that's where continuous real-time intelligence comes in, which provides you an early indication on are there issues related to diversity, equity, inclusion? Are you attracting talent? Are you losing talent? And are the same challenges being faced by your supply chain? A good example would be that if you were in the textile industry, buyer of cotton, would you have known that in the Xinjiang region in China, there were human rights violations in cotton plantation? Well, that would not be the place where you would want to be doing business. And such stories abound in many parts of the world, in many different industries and parts of your supply chain that one needs to be aware of. So what is a good practice going forward? A good practice starts with adopting good internationally recognized standards for your human capital, particularly around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Making sure you always have visibility and transparency into your DEI practices and very clearly those of your supply chain. And then finally, being able to disclose it. Disclosing it at the board policy level, at the management policy level, and also your supplier supply chain level. And if you do that, the benefits are immense. The benefits begin with being a great attractor of talent, a place where your team and employees engage and do their best, where you're assured that you don't have the supply chain disruptions, the supply chain risks that others do because you are making sure you have visibility and transparency into your supply chain. At the end of it all, tremendous uplift in reputation and significant diminish on your reputation risks. So I highly encourage you as you rethink your ESG strategy, pay particular attention to the S in ESG And in that, pay particular attention to human capital and that around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you.